Hello, and you are back in the Velvet Room with Jokerthefool. This is our 72nd episode, and today we'll be discussing MI5 being sued and the vaccine bringing on societal breakdowns. So we're going to get right into it. This is from NBC News. The headline reads Survivors of 2017 Ariana Grande UK concert bombing take legal action against intelligence agency, the intelligence agency being MI5. This is coming out of London. More than 250 survivors of the suicide bombing that killed 22 people at a 2017 Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, England, are taking legal action against Britain's domestic intelligence agency, is what lawyers are saying. There's lawyers from three firms saying, they said Sunday they submitted a group claim on behalf of more than 250 clients with the UK's investigatory powers tribunal. Can't speak today. But you had a suicide bomber, Salman Abedi, had a knapsack bomb in the Manchester Arena on May 22nd, 2017. So basically, 7 years ago, 100 people were injured, 22 people died. Very unfortunate. And these 250 people are saying that MI5 could have acted swiftly because the bomber Abedi was a subject of interest to MI5 officials in 2014. They could have gotten him out of there, and prevented him from doing this. You'd have 22 people who would have survived, would have lived. You would have 100 people who weren't injured, and you would have these 250 survivors that didn't have damages that they're claiming. So I just want to say that this is definitely the case that a lot of this stuff happens intentionally. You have these intelligence agencies, and I'm speaking from the American perspective, like the FBI, the CIA. They'll know that you have these terrorists, these criminals running loose, and they'll just let them do it. Hell, there's even evidence that the FBI, or I'm sure you can find evidence that the FBI basically grooms people into committing these sorts of crimes. Is that like a definitive 100% thing? It's a bit tinfoil hat sounding. But anyway, the case that you can make very much so is that there's intentional negligence from these intelligence agencies, and there's blowback coming. And I think this is certainly a good thing. Is this going to lead to anything that I want to have happen, where institutions like MI5 get absolutely abolished? No. But if this goes through the courts and they do get some retribution, MI5 has to acknowledge that they said, yeah, we knew this guy was a person of interest 3 years before he did the attack. We could have gotten him into our custody, and we could have prevented this from happening. And we're having to make acknowledgments. We're going to have to pay retribution to the people who were involved in that. 250 people who are part of this. It's basically a class action lawsuit. Class action lawsuit is a very American thing, but you can do these sorts of things in different states. So you have this, class action lawsuit that's happening, and it's an ongoing legal matter. So this is like weeks and months where these things develop, when you got lawyers pushing papers around and all these sorts of things, especially when you've got MI5 involved, a big government agency. It's going to make things even more complicated. We got free law firms involved, and this is going to be a real shit show of a situation to get through legally. But once that happens, if the decision that comes down is that MI5 was liable for this because they could have captured this guy and it was intentional negligence, it's just going to lead to this cultural cascade where more people are going to look at what I'm talking about, the FBI, these other intelligence agencies, because what the FBI does, a lot of other countries have intelligence agencies that operate in a similar fashion. Of course, the FBI is very uniquely depraved in how the scale it operates, but MI5 is definitely a similar intelligence agency. They're intentionally negligent. Hopefully, that gets handed down to them in the court, and that leads to this cultural cascade where people are saying, well, if MI5 did this, maybe the FBI is doing this. Maybe my country's intelligence agency is doing this, and it just leads people to being against the existence of these intelligence agencies and seeing that they are not necessary because they can't do what they're supposed to do. if you knew this guy was a person of interest for years before he did it, and he was still able to do it. And you have 22 people that are dead. You have hundreds of people that have meaningfully lost something in their lives because of this bombing that could have been prevented by MI5. But we're going to the next topic as I clear my throat. So thank you for bearing with me. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you like my podcast, even though I can't speak all the time. But this next headline is from News Addicts is top virologist warns fully vaxxed face huge wave of sudden deaths. So now, we've talked about the vaccine. Of course, I got the first 2 shots of Pfizer, and somehow I'm still alive. If I drop dead one day, it'll be completely unrelated. But you have a world-renowned virologist. This is Dr. Gert van den Bosch, Belgian virologist. My pronunciation of Belgian names is not the best, so bear with me on that. So we're going to call him Dr. Van den. Saying that the mass collapse of immunity among the fully vaccinated is upon us, and it's going to be a huge wave of sudden deaths and severe illness. This will, start to replace the surge of cancers. We'll have a more chronic phase. So it will be more and more cases of long COVID, and then you'll see a surge of cancers that will replace that, and then it'll be this hyperacute phase, a huge wave, I guess, of sudden illness and death. And, you have several virologists saying this. You have, there's another article I didn't put it in, but it was something like 14,000% increase in cancers according to the CDC. Now, those numbers, it goes from a couple dozen to a couple hundred in comparison with influenza. So that data is a bit iffy to track, but you've seen a whole, a lot of stuff. You look at VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Reaction Database, or whatever the hell it's called. I've seen, an uptick on a lot of stuff. Of course, if you've seen dying suddenly, you've seen, all the weird blood clots that are forming in people. The fact that you've got people who, for the rest of their lives, have to be on blood thinners because of what the vaccine, or the spike protein from the mRNA is doing to people's immune systems, to their blood. In the long term, it stays with you for at least 2 weeks. These spike proteins. Now, how much can people purge it with healthy lifestyle habits, with doing stuff like fasting, which would engage in autophagy, or just being able to sleep properly and nourish yourself properly, and being able to heal your immune system. Who knows? But a lot of people are chronically unhealthy. And these chronically unhealthy people are the ones who got jabbed and boosted and double boosted and triple boosted. So you have, this unhealthy lifestyle, all this garbage is going into your body. So, and then the vaccine is just yet another toxin being added to this. And a lot of people are going to snap. And again, people might say, well, you're just a conspiracy theorist, Joker. There's no evidence that this is going to happen. The vaccine is safe and effective. Dr. Fauci told it to me himself, and he would never lie to me. Just like he would never do anything to beagles. They're very cute dogs. But we've got some evidence of this. Evolve.news headline reads, Greece's population plummets as sudden deaths soar. So the population of Greece has now plummeted to dangerously low levels after sudden and unexpected deaths began soaring out of control in 2021. European nations grappling with skyrocketing deaths among the country's vaccinated population while birth rates continue to fall. In the last 3 years, Greece has suffered major increase in miscarriages and stillbirths, which have dramatically impacted the nation's birth rates. You looked into the information about miscarriages, stillbirths, trouble conceive. Well, I'm not sure about trouble with conception, but definitely how the vaccine has affected pregnant women. The fact that the spike protein gets into breast milk as well is also very concerning. In 2022, Greece recorded the lowest number of births in 92 years, according to the most recent data. And the preliminary unofficial data also indicates another major drop in 23. Greece's fertility rate is one of the lowest in Europe. Some villages have not recorded a single birth in the past 3 years. The government is planning in May to unveil new measures to boost the birth rates. Of course, the state's going to try and fix this. I've talked about this in a paid episode. The state can't fix the fact that the birth rates are declining. Of course, the vaccine's got a lot in the fact that it makes it harder for people to conceive and have children, while also making people more vulnerable to chronic illnesses, whether they already have them, whether they will start to form them. It's very concerning. So you're going to see this happen more and more in other countries as well, in the United States, UK, probably even China. There's going to be a massive cover-up of this. The mRNA vaccine rollout is one of the most egregious medical scandals probably in anybody's lifetime, with just the scale it was, how quickly rushed out it was, the financial incentive, the fact that there's basically no liability that these companies will incur because they've been protected out the wazoo for it, even though if it's so safe and so effective, why can't Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson be sued for any adverse effects? There would be so few of them if it's so safe and effective that these companies would be able to eat up the costs, or they're multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical conglomerates. They operate all over the world. It's surely, the one or two people who have actual vaccine side effects would be able to make a claim and get some justice. But the thing is that's a lot more than one or two people. And the medical establishment, the governments are going to hang on with their dying breath that the vaccine was safe and effective, that it was the best thing to do, that everything that happened after March of 2020 was completely justified, and if we didn't do it, then the apocalypse would have happened. And that's the position that they're going to have until the end of time, because if there's any acknowledgement of what they actually did to the population, of just how badly they screwed over people just to gain control, just to bring in the globalist WEF New World Order, on the timescale that they wanted to, there would be a huge backlash, and they would lose all freaking ground in terms of the culture. Talk about the culture war in politics, whatever. They would just lose that instantaneously if there was any sort of acknowledgement of that. Now, of course, hopefully enough people are aware of this, and this is why I'm talking about this, even though I have a small platform, is that you need to be aware of what they did to you during 2020. Now, if you think COVID was this extremely legitimate disease, and, there were people who were perfectly healthy who got it, but the response to it was a extreme net negative, that what the governments of the world did, you had the WHO, you had all these state governments, you had the UN, you had all these, the G5 countries, basically everyone locking down, shutting down all of human society. That was an extreme net negative for society. What we got out of that in terms of protecting people from COVID versus the economic and societal damage that the lockdowns cause is far greater. So whatever COVID would have done to the population if we just treated it like swine flu, or a bad case of the flu, or whatever it was, would have been far more preferable than what the lockdowns did to society. That is my personal opinion. I am dying on that hill. You are welcome to disagree with me, but that's the position that I have, and especially when we're looking at the vaccines being pushed out and the fact that, you have countries like Greece, and again, are we in this complete societal collapse now? No, but it's definitely going to make things buckle. In some countries, are going to buckle more than others. So, a country like Greece might buckle more than a country like the UK, which might buckle a little bit less than the US. So the amount of damage the vaccine is going to do to countries on a societal level is going to vary. But it's not going to be a positive effect long term, especially for the people who are just insistent on getting like every freaking booster that they release. Those people are going to reap the most amount of negative benefits. So you just want to be aware of that. You definitely want to not get these vaccines, the mRNA vaccines, even the seasonal flu shot. There's a lot of other things you can do to make sure your immune system is on point. Have a good diet, sleep properly, get plenty of sun. Vitamin D is great for you. Stay hydrated. Basic things. Just live a healthy lifestyle, and you're going to be healthy as a result. Don't depend on going to a Walgreens and having them jab something in your arm and thinking that's going to make you that much healthier. Some seasonal flu shots, might do you some good, especially if you're older. Fine, but I don't trust it anymore. My faith in the medical community is basically zilch after all the COVID nonsense, and anyone who's looking at at this with any sort of reasonable mindset would most likely think the same. But with that, I'm ending this episode. I hope you enjoy this one, despite the fact that I can barely speak these days. We're heading into the outro now. Thank you for being in the Velvet Room with Joker the Fool. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, whether you're listening on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, or Substack. And be sure to subscribe to my Substack, velvetroompublishing.substack.com, to keep up with Machine to Man and all my other projects.